So I got some good questions from my last video regarding tax refunds and how to best utilize them so essentially they don't come back to bite you in the ass when you're filing for bankruptcy. The individual who asked me, it sounds like they're expecting to have a fairly large refund, over $5,000, and wanted to know what they can use it on before they're filing bankruptcy. So the first question they asked was, if they don't have a car, then can they get a car or a motorcycle? And of course, these questions are specific to Maryland. And the answer is yes. If you don't have a vehicle and you need a vehicle to get to and from work, then yes, you can use your tax refund as a down payment for that vehicle. Obviously, don't go trying to get I don't know, the top of the line Mercedes or something like that, because you want to make sure that once you get filed, the payment that you have afterwards is something that's sustainable for you in the long run. You also don't want to go the other direction and get a beater that you're going to be so upside down in once you purchase it with the auto loan and everything else that you're pretty much only going to be paying for the loan and not have and be paying twice or three times the value of the vehicle. So you want to get something that's kind of midline, that is pretty close, where the value or the purchase price is pretty close to the actual value of the vehicle. But that's something that, at least in my experience in Maryland, the trustees are pretty understanding about, because ultimately your monthly cost of transportation is likely going to be much less if you have a vehicle than if you are taking public transportation or using Uber for every trip to and from work and to the grocery store and to pick your kids up and all of that stuff. So yes, you can get a vehicle. I honestly would probably suggest not getting a motorcycle. Motorcycles tend to be viewed as luxury items. Now, if it's just you and you don't have any kids, and a motorcycle is what you can afford, then of course go for it. But my suggestion would really be to try to look at a sedan, a cheaper sedan, or maybe even an SUV if you can. The second question was, if I need some furniture for my house or my kids need furniture for their room, can I get that with my tax refund? Again, the answer is yes. So you essentially, when you're looking at what you can purchase using your tax refund, think about things that you need to live. So if your kids are living, like all of their clothes are in milk crates and they need a dresser, then you can get them a dresser. It might just be an IKEA dresser or, one from Amazon that's, $150, but you can get them a dresser to put their stuff in. Along those same lines, if you need any kind of medical procedure, or let's say you need to get your wisdom teeth removed or something like that, and you need that tax refund to make that happen, that's a health and wellness expense. So that's typically seen as an acceptable expense for you to use your tax refund on, and an understandable expense as well. If you already have a vehicle and you're behind on payments, use the refund to get caught up. These are all questions that the trustees are going to ask. They're going to be scrutinizing it pretty closely. What they're looking for really is to make sure that when you have your tax refund, that you're not going out and flying to Vegas and blowing it all on the slot machines, or going to the Horseshoe here in Baltimore and blowing it all at the blackjack table or something like that. That's really what they're looking to make sure of, because at the end of the day, what we don't want to see happen is the bankruptcy system being abused to the detriment of the creditors. The bankruptcy system is a way that we can provide debtors who need it a fresh start, so that they're not drowning in debt and they can become contributing members of the economy again, And this is really for people who are at their last straw, who they don't really have any other recourse at this point. So we don't, the trustees want to just make sure that creditors aren't being, the bankruptcy system isn't being used actively to just harm creditors and for debtors to use as a get out of debt free card when they can in fact pay their debts and are just choosing not to. I hope that made sense. So, and then the last question that this individual had is, how long does a Chapter 7 bankruptcy take in the state of Maryland? And typically, a Chapter 7 only takes about 3 to 6 months. Once you get filed, you're going to have a 341 meeting of creditors. That's 30 days after you get filed-ish, depending on what the court calendar looks like and what the dockets look like. And then the court's going to hold your case open for another 60 days after that meeting of creditors. That's so that any of your creditors can come forward and say, I object to this discharge because I think they're abusing the system because X, Y, Z. In my experience, that's pretty rare. The only creditors I've seen object to discharge in a Chapter 7 are those who are objecting because someone has a car, they've not made any car payments since the bankruptcy was filed, and usually they're not objecting to the discharge so much as they're trying to get permission from the court to repossess the vehicle. The other thing that I've seen is where someone's taken out a bunch of debt and then immediately files bankruptcy. The creditors and the U.S. Trustee's Office are both going to flag that as potential fraud, and they'll object to the discharge at least for those specific debts. And then you'll go through what's called an adversary proceeding. But again, as long as you're not actively taking out debt for the purposes of declaring bankruptcy and not paying it back, you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. So typically, in my experience, bankruptcies usually last for a Chapter 7 between 3 and 6 months, and then you have that full discharge and you have that clean slate, that fresh start, and you're able to start over. I hope that answered all of the questions that you had. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments and I will answer them in my next video. Peace.